Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Hari Vradakacharya Stotra Satta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhai Charandarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki
Jai.
Skandiviti, founder Acharyas, Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki
Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki
Jai.
Harinam Sankirtan ki
Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki
Jai.
Transcendental Book Distribution ki
Jai.
Jai Shri Shri Gauranitai ki
Jai.
Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi ki
Jai.
Jai Shri Krishna Balarama ki
Jai.
Jai Shri Giri Govardhana ki
Jai.
Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki
Jai.
Jai Nitai Gaura
Hari
Pimanande.
Hari.
All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled
Hare
devotees.
Krishna.
All glories to the assembled
Hare
devotees.
Krishna.
All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Sakanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhamyam Swasya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya,
Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Sri Advaita Gadadhar,
Shri Advaita Gadadhar,
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Surabhyay Namaha.
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 Mukam karoti vasalam pangum langayate girim yat kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam yat kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome everyone to our morning Bhagavatam class. And let's see what we have this morning. We're just continuing or what?
I choose the verse Yasya Yallakshanam Proktam 7:11:35.
Same.
Chapter.
Yeah. So we're reading for those who can follow, possibly, on your own. Canto number 7, chapter 11, text 35? 35, yeah. This chapter is entitled The Perfect Society for Social Classes. Yeah. Yasya
Yasya
yal
Yal
lakshanam
Lakshanam
proktam
Proktam
pumso
Pumso
varnabhivyanjakam
Varnabhivyanjakam
yad
Yad
anyatrapi
Anyatrapi
drishyeta
Drishyeta
tat tanaiva
Tenaiva
vinirdishet
Vinirdishet
yasya yal lakshanam proktam
Yasya Yallakshanam Proktam
pumso varnabhivyanjakam
Pumso Varnabhivyanjakam
yad anyatrapi drishyeta
Yad Anyatrapi Drishyeta
tat tenaiva vinirdishet
Tattenaiva Vinirdishet
yasya yal lakshanam proktam
Yasya Yallakshanam Proktam
pumso varnabhivyanjakam
Pumso Varnabhivyanjakam
yad anyatrapi drishyeta
Yad Anyatrapi Drishyeta
tat tenaiva vinirdishet
Tattenaiva Vinirdishet
yasya yal lakshanam proktam
Yasya Yallakshanam Proktam
pumso varnabhivyanjakam
Pumso Varnabhivyanjakam
yad anyatrapi drishyeta
Yad Anyatrapi Drishyeta
tat tenaiva vinirdishet.
Tattenaiva Vinirdishet यस्य यल्लक्षणं प्रोक्तं
Yasya yallakshanam proktam
पुंसो वर्णाभिव्यञ्जकम्
Pumso varnabhyanjakam
यद् अन्यत्रापि दृश्येत
Yad anyatrapi drishyeta
तत्तेनैव विनिर्दिशेत्
Tattinaiva vinirdishet
यस्य यल्लक्षणं प्रोक्तं
Yasya yallakshanam proktam
पुंसो वर्णाभिव्यञ्जकं
Pumso varnabhyanjakam
यत् अन्यत्रापि दृश्येत
Yad anyatrapi drishyeta
तत्तेनैव विनिर्दिशेत्
Tattinaiva vinirdishet
यस्य लक्षणं प्रोक्तं
Yasya yallakshanam proktam
पुंसो वर्णाभिव्यञ्जकं
Pumso varnabhyanjakam
यत् अन्यत्रापि दृश्येत
Yad anyatrapi drishyeta
तत्तेनैव विनिर्दिशेत्
Tattinaiva
विनिर्दिशेत्
Mataji.
यत्ययल्लक्षणं प्रोक्तं
Yasya yallakshanam proktam
पुंसो वर्णाभिव्यञ्जकं
Pumso varnabhyanjakam
यद्यन्त्रापि दृश्येत
यदन्यत्रापि दृश्येत
तत्तेनैव विनिर्दिशेत्
तत्तेनैव विनिर्दिशेत्
Yasya
यस्य
of whom
of whom
Yat
यत्
which Lakshanam
लक्षणं
symptom
symptom
Proktam
प्रोक्तं
described above
described above
Pumsaha
पुंसः
of a person
of a person
Varna abhivyanjakam
वर्ण अभिव्यञ्जकम्
indicating the classification
indicating the classification
Brahmana,
Brahmana,
Kshatriya,
Kshatriya,
Vaishya,
Vaishya,
Shudra,
Shudra,
etc.
etc.
Yat
Yad
if
if
Anyatra
anyatra
elsewhere
elsewhere
Api
api
also Drishyeta
drishyeta
is seen
is seen
Tat
that
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 Tena
tena
by that symptom
by that symptom
Eva
eva
certainly
certainly
Vinirdishat
vinirjishet
one should designate.
one should designate.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
If one shows the symptoms of being a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, as described above, even if he has appeared in a different class, he should be accepted according to those symptoms of classification. Kindly repeat after me. If one shows the symptoms
If one shows the symptoms
of being a Brahmana,
of being a Brahmana,
Kshatriya,
Kshatriya,
Vaishya or Shudra,
Vaishya or Shudra,
as described above,
as described above,
even if he has appeared
even if he has appeared
in a different class,
in a different class,
he should be accepted
he should be accepted
according to those symptoms
according to those symptoms
of classification.
of classification.
Report. Herein, it is clearly stated by Narada Muni that one should not be accepted as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, a Vaishya, or Shudra according to birth. For although that is going on now, it is not accepted by the Shastras. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4:13, Chatur Varnyam Maya Sristam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha. Thus, the four divisions of society, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and the Shudra, are to be ascertained according to qualities and activities. If one was born in a Brahmana family and has acquired the Brahminical qualifications, he is to be accepted as a Brahmana. Otherwise, he should be considered a Brahmabandhu. Similarly, if a Shudra acquires the qualities of a Brahmana, although he was born in a Shudra family, he is not a Shudra. Because he has developed the qualities of a Brahmana, he should be accepted as a Brahmana. The Krishna consciousness movement is meant to develop these Brahminical qualities. Regardless of the community in which one was born, if one develops the qualities of a Brahmana, he should be accepted as a Brahmana. And he then may be offered the order of sannyas. Unless one is qualified in terms of the Brahminical symptoms, one cannot take sannyas. In designating a person a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, birth is not the essential symptoms or symptom. This understanding is very important. Herein, Narada Muni distinctly says that one may be accepted according to the caste of his birth if he has the corresponding qualifications, but otherwise he should not. One who has attained the qualifications of a Brahmana, regardless of where he was born, should be accepted as a Brahmana. Similarly, if one has developed the qualities of a Shudra or a Chandala, regardless of where he was born, he should be accepted in terms of those symptoms. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 7th canto, 11th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Perfect Society for Social Classes. And I read again the translation. If one shows the symptoms of being a Brahmana, Kshatriya, a Vaishya, or Shudra, as described above, even if he has appeared in a different class, he should be accepted according to those symptoms of classification. So this section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning with this particular chapter, for those who may not be familiar, is Narada Muni's, I would say, elaborate presentation on the science of, especially Varnashrama Dharma. When Narada Muni was visiting the residence of Yudhishthira Maharaj, who we all know is a very exalted personality, pure devotee, but he presented himself very humbly, as Vaishnavas are meant to do. And he requested Narada Muni to kindly explain the duties and responsibilities of householders. And Narada Muni, thus being inspired, presents in 5 chapters, which I very strongly recommend, especially for householders, but actually for everyone also. This particular verse is extremely important. Many years ago, one of my godbrothers was relating to Srila Prabhupada that he had gone to see some Mayavadi kind of person who was naturally, when Srila Prabhupada came back from America with some of his, we call white dancing elephants. Who are these people, chanting Hare Krishna, wearing Brahmana thread, holding a danda, they're not from our culture, they're not from India. So this devotee actually, that was, for those who may know, Yashomati Nandan Prabhu, who is no longer with us physically. He was former temple president of Hyderabad temple. Very active, very learned. Actually, he had met Srila Prabhupada when he was still a student in America. And as others also, he became attracted, became a devotee, etc. So this Mayavadi was asking all kinds of questions, and this particular question was asked actually. And Yashomati Nanda Prabhu had memorized this verse. And then so he just quoted that verse to this person who was promoting and, of the opinion that no, unless you're born in a Brahmana family, you just cannot become a Brahmana, You can't go to Gurukul. This is really only for those born in Brahmana families. So when he quoted this verse to this person, his reply was that your guru has trained you very well. Because, you can't, this is from Shastra, and it just cannot be refuted. And therefore, this is, as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, this is one of the very important, we could say, responsibilities. It's a mandate actually given to us by our founder Acharya to present Krishna consciousness. I mean, it all began especially 500 years ago with the advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who also broke the norms of the day and who associated with anyone who was inclined or interested to chant the holy name. So the chanting of the holy name is for all living entities. And as nicely explained here, which is based on, that's why learning Bhagavad Gita from proper parampara, Guru parampara, is so important. And Prabhupada quotes this most important verse from the 4th chapter, Chaturvanyam Maya System, Guna Karma Vibhagasha, according to guna and karma, according to natural qualities, and according to activities. One of our foremost acharyas, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, goes into great detail it's very interesting actually, in one of his many writings, Sajana Toshani. He mentions how, actually he begins, it's a fairly good section, he makes the following statement, how to re-establish Vedic culture, how to re-establish specifically the system of Varna and Ashrama, which is something we should know that Srila Prabhupada spoke about quite elaborately, quite often, because Vedic culture means following the created system of Varna and Ashrama, which is described in this particular verse and referred in other places as well, in the Bhagavad Gita, as well as the Srimad Bhagavatam. And these are our two most important literatures. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, isn't it? So, for people or for devotees who live in temples, this may seem less relevant, actually, because there are many devotees. I mean, welcome, for those who may not know, to the controversy of Varnashram. Varnashram in itself is like, it's like sometimes people are misunderstood, you know. Well, Varnashram is like that. It's a misunderstood word, a misunderstood ideology. And very widely, I would say, misunderstood, and in some places actually, like India, I mean, we find many purports like this one, where Prabhupada, yeah, well, you know, Shudra is part of reality, Shudra is part of the Vedic culture, Shudra is part of the system of Varnashrama. But as you may know, there is, because of so much of controversy and because of so much of, exploitation and abuse of the system, now there's a law in India that if you call somebody a Shudra, you can get arrested. So be careful after the class. So, important point is that although, yeah, our primary goal and identity actually is in terms of bhakti, devotional service, and most of us, we prefer hearing such topics about devotional service, which is fine also. But we also need to hear topics related with what may not be immediately understood as devotional service. But there are important statements given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur again, whereby he explains that anyone who within any of the varnas and ashramas is engaged in activities for pleasing Krishna, because that is the real meaning of a varnashrama, which Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur coined as Daiva Varnashrama. Daiva, there's two kinds of Varnashrama. One is Daiva, divine, and the other one is Asuric. That's a whole other topic actually. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that those engaged in activities within any of the four varnas and ashramas, when performing those activities for the pleasure of Krishna, that is devotional service, that is bhakti. And specifically he mentions that this does not incur any karmic reaction. It's like when Arjuna is fighting on the battle of Kurukshetra. His fighting, his shooting arrows, his killing is not creating karma. That's his bhakti, actually, in that particular context. So, this particular message, of course, it's important for those of our devotees living in temples, as well as outside of our temples. But the point I wanted to make is that the importance of classifying, of knowing how to classify, and also how to train individuals who will fall within these four classifications was, we could say, stressed, was underlined as being very important by actually all of our acharyas. In this particular book I mentioned, Sajana Toshane, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he goes out he goes on to explain actually that in a village situation, very nice, quite elaborate actually, traditionally in villages, now most of us don't live in villages, so this whole topic is much, in many ways, more difficult actually to understand. The more we are living close to nature, the more we're living close to what Vedic culture advocates, which is, by the way, agrarian lifestyle. I mean, I mentioned this many times because I think many devotees may not quite understand how important this is. Vedic culture is an agrarian culture. And for those who may be less familiar with the word agrarian, it means a culture that is connecting us daily, directly, and very intimately with cows, land, and the primary purpose of developing higher consciousness. For us, it means Krishna consciousness. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually explains that if we want society to be properly organized, those who are brahmanas in villages, traditionally, maybe I'm sure in some villages it's still there, but much less. One of the foremost responsibilities of brahmanas is to determine, to classify, to designate the varna of young boys before they reach the age of 15. It's a disservice if one actually does not do that. And of course, very often devotees will come up with a question. Some of you might have even asked that question. Maharaj, who am I? What is my varna? Again, in the temple situation, it's less critical, but most of us actually are not living in a temple situation, so it is more important. In many ways, of course, from the beginning of our movement, Srila Prabhupada was often criticized, as we know, on this particular point, allowing, encouraging individuals who had absolutely no connection with the Vedic culture. Most people outside of India have little or no connection with the Vedic culture. It took me 25 years to even know the word Krishna. In India, you're born knowing about so many things about the Vedic culture, but in the Western culture, it's completely different. But what we need to understand is that what we call the gunas, the modes of material nature, are not just in India, isn't it? The modes of material nature are everywhere. And the system of varna is connected directly with the modes of material nature. Those who are primarily in the mode of goodness, they are more Brahminical, isn't it? Brahmanas means the mode of goodness, primarily. Those who are more passionate is Kshatriya, like that. So there's a whole science to this whole system, and that is why our acharyas mentioned that unless we reintroduce this system, which can only be done, is only possible by systematically training individuals through the standard educational Vedic system, actually of Gurukula, and recognizing that the majority of our devotees, not only outside of India but also here in India. Let me ask the question: how many of you sitting here have gone to Gurukul? I can't count any hands up. Yeah, majority of people in India nowadays just have not gone to Gurukul. In any event, even in the best of times, it's only a small percentage. Only a small percentage of the population that can go to Gurukul, that have the qualities and ability and whatnot, the interest, yes. But it is very much part of our mission to reintroduce the Vedic culture, which cannot happen unless we learn about these 4 varnas and 4 ashramas, which is in this particular section of the Bhagavatam something that Narada Muni especially. Actually, in the later cantos of the Bhagavatam, Krishna, when speaking to Uddhava himself, speaks about varnashrama. So there are many places where the topic of varnashrama comes up. Those who actually want to avoid the very name or word varnashrama, it's very difficult to read the Bhagavatam because it's practically on every other page. There's thousands of references to varnashrama and its importance in the Bhagavatam itself, and then comments and explanations, commentaries by our previous acharyas as well. So that is one of the main reason why Srila Prabhupada gave the instruction many years ago to establish varnashram colleges, because most of us from our childhood have not been exposed to the basic concepts that are there in Gurukula system. So through Varnashram College, Srila Prabhupada felt that, okay, anyone within our society can at least know about Vedic culture in terms of Varna and Ashrama. Yeah. So it means that actually this remains still a very important aspect. As a matter of fact, we cannot expect Vedic culture to be introduced unless we very clearly and deeply understand many of these instructions that are given in these particular chapters of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore, this still remains something that has not been taken up, I would say, sufficiently. Prabhupada had mentioned that wherever we have a center, ISKCON center, or project, there should be a school or a college that we call it Varnashrama College. There is growing interest in different places. As a matter of fact, in Ukraine, devotees who are connected with a farm community that is called Mother Farm. Nice name for a farm. Mother Farm means mother cow. They have a building dedicated actually to Varnashram College. Yeah. And in a few other places also, there's kind of a growing interest. So, granted, it's because we're at this particular stage of Kali Yuga, where especially in the last few hundred years, things have become very mixed. Not so easy, especially in the context in which majority of people, including our own devotees, like in cities, in urban areas, it's more difficult to actually more clearly, more quickly understand one's varna. Because, as Prabhupada explained, the whole living condition in modern day society is very artificial, isn't it? Is artificial, is not in keeping with what is recommended in the Shastra. It is highly unsustainable, and I cannot but take advantage of the Bangalore example, which will probably be ongoing for some time. Yeah, I mean, this is one of many examples. Prabhupada warned us about this many, many years ago. As long as we, maintain an artificial situation, position, and as long as we promote things which are clearly unsustainable, then at some point we're going to be in big problem. So the whole situation actually in the world is very much like that. Whether we look at the economics or the politics or the whatever different levels, health, education, all of these sectors in society are in deep trouble today because they're not in keeping with the standards that are recommended in the Shastra. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada requested all of us to hear on a regular basis the Srimad Bhagavatam so that we can understand what is meant to be the real standard in society. And we should, as devotees, we should not be, afraid or shy in promoting and advocating the system of Varna and Ashrama. That is, just like bhakti. The science of bhakti, that's an eternal science because it's connected with our eternal self, the spirit soul. Krishna Nityadas, as Lord Chaitanya mentioned, Jiver Swarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas. Our Swarup, our nature, is to be eternally servants of Krishna as a spirit soul, right? So that's an eternal science. Similarly, Krishna, when he creates this material world, he creates eternal systems, eternal material systems for the material world. Right? When we study Bhagavad Gita, the tattvas, there are 5 tattvas. Srimad Bhagavatam has 10 tattvas. Bhagavad Gita has 5 tattvas that are presented. So 4 of those are described as being eternal. And one of those 4 that is eternal is Prakriti. So we know material nature. This Prakriti is an eternal principle. Prakriti is connected with the modes of material nature. Every time there is creation, the modes of material nature are there. In the spiritual world, there's no modes of material nature, right? So it's very important to understand how Krishna has created this material world and what is the best system whereby, if applied, if followed, we can get out of this entanglement and this suffering in the material world. The whole system of Varna and Ashrama is meant to facilitate our advancement ultimately in spiritual life. So therefore, it is especially the duty or the responsibility of those who are more Brahminical, but actually because our understanding, Vaishnava understanding, is that actually all of us, regardless of whether we are in the category of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or even Shudra, every single member within the system of Daiva Varnashrama can and should be a preacher, should be knowledgeable about the science. And that's why Lord Chaitanya, he mentioned, Kiba Virpa, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra Ke Nenoy, Jai Krishna Tattva Veta, Se Guru Hoy. Anyone who knows the science of Krishna, Krishna consciousness, can actually become a teacher, can become a guru. Whoops. So, thank you for choosing this verse today. There's still a lot of controversy in India on this particular point and other points related to that also. So we'll take maybe a few questions, or a few minutes rather, if there's any comments or questions on this topic. Don't all raise your hands at the same time now. Yes.
Actually, as you told, like Guru Maharaj, we have spiritual world. There is no signas, right?
In the spiritual world, there are no gunas.
And when we are service, like when we are doing service, how we can get what you call jealousy about Krishna, and we came to material world because there is no signas, there is no. Because we are in spiritual world and we get jealousy about Krishna.
The eternal question.
Yeah.
How we came here.
Ah.
That's your question.
Ah.
Yeah.
Because there is no tribunals there.
Yes. Our acharyas, in particular Srila Prabhupada, has explained that because we as jiva, living entity, we are very minute, very, very small, isn't it? In the Bhagavad Gita, mamai vangsho jiva anksha, we are part and parcel, you know. So this small jiva that we are, whom we are, we have therefore minute independence, and therefore our acharyas explain that sometimes that minute independence is misused, because in the spiritual world there is a natural loving exchange or loving relationship between the jiva and the Lord, Krishna. And that is totally voluntary. Love is not something that can be forced or imposed upon someone. It is voluntary. So therefore, because of this, we always have that choice because we are eternally created in this way. Some living entities, and all living entities in the material world, have somehow or other, this is how it's explained, not so easy for us to understand. What we should know, however, and this is according to both Shastra and our acharyas, once having come to this world, and once having been once having been burnt and fried over and over again. The example is given of a young child who has never experienced what is fire. His parents will tell him, don't touch that. Yeah. But he has a choice. He can touch or not touch. If he touches, he'll get burnt. So all the living entities in the material world, by going through this repeated process of birth and death, the cycle, the whole samsara experience, once we go back to the spiritual world, we will never again come back here. So that is the explanation given by Srila Prabhupada and our other acharyas. I mean, devotees have and do continue to debate on the topic, but Prabhupada basically told us, give the other example. If you're drowning in the ocean, don't try to figure out how that has happened. Just work at getting out of that, precarious situation. Any other thoughts in connection with Varna or Ashrama? Yes.
I have one question. Actually, guna karma belongs to our body also. Ayurveda says vata, pitta, kapha.
Yes.
So vata indicates air and space. and Pitta is made up of fire and water,
Yes,
and Kapha is water and Prithvi means Bhumi.
yes.
So these our software, just like software.
Software.
Software come from our bodies only, means mother and father.
Yes,
So then the jiva, when the deliver, means they born, their guna comes from their parents only. Ayurveda says.
yeah. Well, the jiva is not born,
Yeah.
but the body is born.
Body, yes.
Yes. So that that comes. That is we call karma, isn't it? Yeah. It is. We call. Well, I guess in medical terms or in scientific terms, genes or DNA.
Information.
Yeah. So yeah, that's part of Krishna's very, not so easy system that he has created for for all those who come in the material world that we carry from previous time. It's very very intricate, not for ordinary people, even for scientists. Scientists, so many things they don't fully understand. But yes, this is one of the important instructions that we receive both in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, that when we come to, very important point, when we come to this human form of life, we become responsible for our actions, like the small child who is so-called innocent, but if he touches the fire, nature will not say that, oh, he's a small child, he won't get the reaction, he'll get the reaction. It means that actually, when we come to this human form of life, all of us have had that great fortune, then we must learn, what is, as Bhagavad Gita explains, pravritim cha nivritim cha, janana vidur asura. One must know what is to be done, what is not to be done. And those who don't know the difference between, they're designated as asura. It means impure in consciousness. Not hardcore necessarily, asura, but impure in consciousness. So yes, in Ayurveda, that's why Ayurveda is one of the, it is the medical science, Vedic, very scientific as well, very elaborate, very, very deep and profound. And so we see how Krishna, he has given, through these Vedic literatures, both very concise, deep and elaborate knowledge of both a spiritual and material nature. Because we are here in the material world, we are a combination of spirit and matter. The jiva is the spirit soul, but encaged in this material body. So we must know the workings of both energies, isn't it? Yeah. And again, that is directly connected with these modes of material nature, connected with the whole system of varna and ashrama, and therefore it is only those in the human body, human form of life, that have the ability to start learning and knowing, because we are animals. They don't create karma, they just live out their karma. But we, as human beings, we do two things. We live out our previous karma, and then we also create, which we should not do. If we are not knowing the systems that are given in the Shastra, then we create either good or bad karma. But both is actually bad, because if we create good karma by getting a higher, superior body in the next life, or by going to Svargaloka, which is a better place, better facilities, we are still stuck in the material world. Yeah. So both Shastra explained, both good karma and bad karma is not good. Yeah. So the whole explanation of akarma, karma, vikarma, and akarma. But yes, Vedic. Therefore, it's important that we have individuals who are knowledgeable about all of the different sciences that are there, including, yeah. Prabhupada would be sometimes consulting with Ayurvedic doctors. Anything else? Yes.
So why Brahmanas are not interested to teach Vedas to other Varnas?
Why Brahmanas are not interested to
Teach Vedas
teach Vedas
to other Varnas.
to other Varnas? Because they're not real Brahmanas. Prabhupada was making this point in 1972 when giving a whole series of lectures on the nectar of devotion. He was, in many of the lectures, I highly recommend devotees, nice, about 30 or so lectures on the science of bhakti. Prabhupada was making that point that specifically pointing out that in Vrindavan, the Brahmanas, not only in Vrindavan, but throughout the whole of India, the Brahmanas have not taken up their duty properly. Prabhupada was pointing this out, of teaching Vedic knowledge to all of the members of society. It's like a doctor is meant to train others to become doctors. So a Brahmana is meant to train others to become whatever they may, whatever they are meant to be in society, either Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. And each of these four divisions, which they are the natural divisions, are actually in the Vedic culture, in the context of Vedic culture, each one of them, including the Shudra class, are exalted members of that system of Varnashrama. Each one of the members of any of these four classifications can actually become a pure devotee, you see. And of course, their activities will be, we could say, regulated according to their natural abilities and inclinations. For example, generally, those who are more intellectual, they become more like Brahmanas. Also Kshatriyas, because to govern a village or a nation, you have to have a certain amount of intelligence. So all of these are very deep sciences, and that is why it's the foremost responsibility of those who are Brahmanas to actually be teachers and to be merciful to all the members in society. But as your question is indicating, which is the reality, that in the past, and possibly even now, at times those who are claiming to be Brahmanas will restrict, but there are guidelines also for teaching, isn't it? In the whole Vedic system of education, for example, a Brahmana should only teach to those who are qualified to receive the knowledge. A Brahmana should be qualified to teach, and a student should be qualified to hear, isn't it? Yeah. So this is also very elaborately explained. Unless both are qualified, then you won't get the desired result. In modern day education, unfortunately, to a large extent, the teachers are not properly qualified because there are 9 qualities which are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. For example, if one smokes cigarettes, he's not qualified to be a teacher, according to Vedic standard. Yeah, that's a small example. And So not only the teacher needs to have these qualifications, but also there are three qualifications that are needed for a student. And that's also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Tad vidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. One must have the quality of submissiveness, humility. One must be inquisitive, and one must also be willing to render service. Yeah, prashna, seva, and pranipat. So like this, everything is very nicely, systematically explained in the Shastra, and therefore the importance of reading and studying our Vedic Shastra. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all very much for being. Oh, Hare Krishna. Yes.
It's like every human being or Brahmana or Kshatriya or Shudra, anybody who's born or who's becomes a devotee is because of their previous sukruti. They don't get into. So, for example, today if I had come to your lecture, it's only because of my sukruti or my mind. Krishna has given that. So if I was at home and watching TV, that is all also because of Sukruti. Somebody is thinking that I have a devotional service, but I am not doing it. It's because, but I want to watch TV. That intelligence is also given by Krishna, right? So
Yes.
what I understand is because of the Sukruti, what we have from previous janmas, we are actually doing these actions. So, how do we get into more elevated souls, or if a for example, if you take all the brahmanas, with respect to what background they come from, eventually they get into devotional service, or they're inclined. 90% are inclined towards devotion, but very few, one or two, where might be earning for money or getting into material. Very less comparatively. But otherwise, people who are not brahmanas, how do we get elevated and get into devotional service to that aspect of brahmanas?
Yes. Well, the aspect of Sukriti, of course, is there. Very often Prabhupada would say that in commenting on some of the children born in the movement, he was telling that he's very young, but he can play cartels. That's because he was playing cartels before.
For example, Amrish Maharaj, so it is like...
Yeah, that is there, but at the same time also, one devotee in America was asking Prabhupada, I mean, how is it that we are getting this very unique opportunity, this great fortune, to take up... Prabhupada one time he mentioned, I created your Sukriti. He didn't have it. So some did have, some did not have. So it's all a question of association. And our acharyas also explain that if one is sincere at heart, because Super Soul, Paramatma, is within everyone's heart, then when Krishna sees, after we're wandering around in this material world, this horrible repetition of birth and death that we all experience, one kind of like begins to seek a solution to the problem, then Krishna will direct one actually to those who are on the proper path. So it is actually bhakti we should also understand. I mean, the whole knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, as we know, Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam, is very confidential. So it's like the majority of people who are brahmanas are not, they know about, spirituality, but to know about, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam, that is very rare. That is extremely rare. and that is possible. Of course, we have the example of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He was a staunch, personalist, but because, and there are many such examples, because he came in contact with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that means that actually more and more people will be able to come around, so to speak, or be able to come in contact with Krishna consciousness, will be able to take up the path of bhakti by our preaching. So that's why preaching is so important, especially in Kali Yuga, because Kali Yuga means that period in history where the most unqualified and fallen souls, take their birth. So therefore, the need for preaching this message of the Srimad Bhagavatam, distributing books, all of the different activities that Srila Prabhupada has introduced, including also introducing the whole system of Varna and Ashrama, which is wherein it is built in, the whole culture is built in within the Varna and Ashrama concepts and principles like that. So the more we take up that, we could say, missionary spirit, which we are meant to do. We are primarily, as devotees, a preaching movement, and the more we take that up, then more living entities will actually get an opportunity, whether they are, whether they have the sukriti or not, by our going out and giving them that opportunity. Prabhupada said, if somebody, for example, gets a book or gets, a rasgula or any prasadam, that person is guaranteed to be born in a human body next life. He has begun his journey back home, back to Godhead. He has begun devotional service, even unconsciously. So that is the great mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the process that he has introduced, especially through the chanting of the holy name. Yeah.
Going back to Godhead is something very multiple lifetimes. It's like
actually,
so engrossed in material world.
Yes and no, because actually Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us that very unique, rare opportunity that if we really immerse ourselves in the mission that he has introduced, our acharyas indicate, Srila Prabhupada has confirmed, it is possible within one lifetime. Normally it would take many, many lifetimes, but we have this unique, very unique opportunity that if we really immerse ourselves in Mahaprabhu's mission, it is possible within one lifetime. Yeah. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Jai Sri Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaura Pimarande. Hare Krishna.
Jai.